Good morning. I'm Michelle Sobolak from the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm honored to be here today to share with you our program for preparing early childhood educators, as well as preparing special education teachers. I'll tell you how we came across combining these two certifications to create a fairly new program at our university, what our state really had a role in helping us do that, and also let you just know a little bit about the type of students that we work with and where we're located. So not surprisingly, University of Pittsburgh, we're located in Pittsburgh. That being said, though, we are only about 2 miles from downtown Pittsburgh, so we are an urban campus. And because of that, we have a strong relationship with the Pittsburgh City School District, which is an urban school district. We find that it's very important for all our teacher preparation programs, including the CASE program, to help prepare our students for the possibility of teaching in an urban school. And in this program, along with all our other teacher certification programs, we have that in our coursework, as well as require our students to have a placement in an urban setting throughout their program. And I'll touch a little bit more on that as we go. As I mentioned on the first slide, our program is called CASE for short. It's the Combined Accelerated Studies in Education, and you can see why we go with that acronym, because that's quite a mouthful. This is a unique program in the state because it's a 5-year undergraduate to graduate program that offers dual teaching certifications at the pre-K 4, general education, K to 8 special education level. Our students enter the University of Pittsburgh as freshmen and sophomores in the School of Arts and Sciences, where they take their liberal arts prerequisites. During their junior year, they move over to the School of Education and start to work on their BS in Applied Developmental Psychology. That is our strong link to prepping these individuals in child development and working birth to age 8, as well as providing the teaching methodology and practicum courses that are essential to their future success. In their graduate year, students continue to take coursework, particularly at the special education level, that's graduate work, and they have full-time student teaching for the year that is split between a primary placement and a special education K to 8 placement, and I'll talk about that in a little more detail coming up. One of the big things that was very important to us as we worked to revamp our program to fit within our state's confines was making sure that we were offering students varied field experiences across birth to age 8 and in the special education up to 8th grade. In their sophomore and junior year, if you recall, students are taking prerequisites, a lot of the child development classes. They're doing a lot of the work at the birth to age 8 range, where they're in field experiences at quality child care centers, some offered through the university, and others which we have identified as quality child care centers that are located in the city of Pittsburgh. When they move into their senior year and are fully in the School of Education, they have 400 hours working in split between a pre-K placement, ages 3 to 5, and an early intervention or life skills, and you can see the ages vary there, 3 to 18, just depending upon their placement. You'll notice throughout our program that our coursework is offered oftentimes a semester of general education, a semester of special education, a semester of general, a semester of special, and you'll notice our practicums follow that same. As I mentioned previously, in their graduate year, they are in 2 full-time student teaching experiences. The state requires 14 weeks at a placement, and we have them both in primary grades in the fall and in a special education placement in the spring. So you may wonder, how did we come across creating a program that, one, is unlike others in the state because it is an undergrad to graduate program, and also that encompasses 2 different certifications, which isn't that rare in Pennsylvania right now based on some new certification requirements. Pennsylvania recently changed their certification to pre-K 4 for general education, and you can see it replaced nursery to grade 3, previous early childhood, or K to 6, which was our previous elementary. And we were required when this change came about to make the changes to programs that prepared teachers pretty rapidly. One of the concerns we had at the university was taking the nursery away from the early childhood certification, and we really had to grapple with a way to ensure that our students were prepared to work with the very youngest learners, as well as prepared to teach at a primary, in a primary school setting. You can also see we added a grade level when we went up to grade 4, which is an interesting dynamic when we typically think of primary grades ending at 3 and pushed to 4. As an aside, Pennsylvania also has a 4 to 8 certificate now, which they call middle grades, which is a new certificate that's filling a need there. And that's the overlap in that grade 4 where you see in the pre-K 4 to 8. We also really saw an increase in inclusion practices and the need for our students to really have a strong understanding of working with students with special learning needs. And that's why we chose to go with a dual certification program. As I mentioned, the students come into the School of Education, but not actually the Department of Instruction and Learning until they're graduates, which is where our teacher certification is at. They move into the Psychology and Education department, and this is where they get that strong emphasis in child development. They take dual coursework, though, in instruction and learning, and that's where they meet their pedagogy and practicum. So these are students who really live across 2 colleges at our university and 4 different programs. So it's a great number of faculty that really had to work together and very quickly. And you know that there were and still are some challenges with getting that many people to prepare teachers well, kind of quickly with it, which was what the state necessitated. We also thought it was really important that all the coursework really maintained a focus on developmentally appropriate practices and play in early childhood, and that was one of the challenges, again, with working across different departments with a large number of faculties. I should also mention the state has changed requirements that special education can no longer stand alone as a teaching certification. Previous to this change, you could choose to go into an undergraduate or graduate program that would prepare you to be a special educator. Many years ago, not that many, when I was an undergrad, it was K-12. It had then moved to K-8 in secondary, but now special education cannot stand alone. So that also necessitated this change. If you would choose to be a special education teacher, you must also have a general education degree in whatever field you would like to support students. For general education, this is what our program looks like. At the secondary level, we have a program where students either are becoming, science educators and special education science educators, English teachers and English special education teachers. So that really necessitated this change as well. One of the challenges we faced and continue to face is the continuity across the curriculum with a number of departments and programs that are involved. I had mentioned those 4 different areas of instruction being child development, early intervention, special education, and primary education. And the way we have chosen to handle that now is our curriculum begins with the child development courses, trying to give our students a strong background in understanding how children develop, both in typical and non-typical ways, and also scaffold the courses to merge then what they know theoretically with the practice we hope to see them have in place in their practicum experiences and their future teaching. There were some barriers that we were faced with when Pennsylvania chose this to make this change, and one was the magnitude of coursework we would need to cover in 4 years. We just really didn't know how we would handle preparing teachers effectively in 4 years to have dual certification as well as a strong background in child development, and that is handled with the 5-year program that allows for more intensive and extensive instruction across those different areas. We were asked specifically to talk to, what does that child development coursework look like? So I wanted to highlight for you some of the courses that we offer that really delve into child development. The students are in their undergraduate program. We also have an ADP, of Applied Developmental Psychology traditional students, and our teaching students take these courses alongside those students, which we think is really a strong way to help prepare them to work with other professionals who hope to work with young children as well. You can see our list of courses there, and just briefly I can tell you that the Child Development course deals with birth to age 8 and includes observations with birth to age 5 students. We have a Meanings of Culture course that helps students understand cultural and gender differences, working with students from cultures other than their own, family differences, etc. We have students take a class on developmental disabilities. We have students take a class on developing curriculum and activities that are appropriate, have developmentally appropriate curriculum. And we have students take a class on supervision and administration of child and youth, which deals with running child care centers, grant writing in that realm, and leadership positions in child and youth work. We work strongly in these classes with the communities, and oftentimes our students go on to do a litany of different volunteer activities with these same groups. As I had mentioned, Pitt is located in an urban center, and we have children who come from many diverse populations that look somewhat different, though, than what Betsy had talked about. We don't have a strong English as a second language population, either in our public school system or in the students that we work with. However, that is growing in our area, so we'd certainly want to work towards preparing our students to work with children who speak English as another language. And we also know that in our state, teaching jobs are incredibly challenging to come by. We live in a state where teaching, thankfully, is a valued career, where we have a really good system in place, and people want to teach in Pennsylvania, but that means that we're putting out a lot of teachers and there aren't jobs. We know we have to prep our students to work elsewhere as well. So in dealing with diverse populations, you can see the specific coursework we have there. We have our students placed, as I mentioned, in an urban setting in both of their senior year practicums. And we also have a social justice and diversity committee that works across those 4 departments to make sure everybody is implementing discussions of teaching diverse populations and having those opportunities in each class. I recognize there is a lot of text on this, so I will talk you through it a bit. This is where our collaboration with the other preparation program for individuals who choose to work with young children takes place. Both the CASE program and the Applied Developmental Psychology degree work together, as I've already mentioned, on those child development courses. The students are together in classes throughout their junior year, and during their senior year they branch out, with our teacher prep candidates having student and pre-student teaching experiences, and our applied developmental students having internships that are preparing them to work with in various jobs, serving children, youth, and families. But the collaboration between these 2 groups is quite unique, as they prepare both to work effectively with young children. Our applied developmental students, just to give you an idea of what are their goals, are oftentimes students who are coming back who already have a vested interest with working with young children. They're oftentimes in placements doing that. They may be preschool teachers, child life specialists, or that's a job that they're hoping to have in the future. We also, Betsy, had a very hard time in talking about how would we improve both our program and programs across the country. We had a litany of ways, and I forced the team that worked together on this presentation to come down to 3 just as a rule follower. But I think we could have many other things up here. Things that we're working hard to do and we think are necessary across the country are making sure that students do have a strong background in child development, so they have a strong understanding of the whole child. We think that that's an essential part of our program that we plan on keeping in the program and hopefully strengthening for our students, so they really have an understanding whether they end up teaching in the pre-K to grade 4 realm, whether they end up teaching using their special education certificate, that they have a really strong understanding of how children develop. We also feel that students need to have extensive and varied opportunities to work with kids prior to certification. We feel that we have done a fairly good job in doing that in our program thus far, and continue to try to find ways in courses that aren't tied to practicum experiences to get kids out into schools, to get them seeing children in many different settings, both public and private education, as well as child care centers that are funded by the government as well as privately run. We think that this is the way to help our students merge educational theory and best practices in the classroom, and we think in strengthening this in our program, and if it were strengthened across programs, we would be putting out novice teachers that are better prepared. And last but not least, we think students need the opportunity to work with highly effective mentors with supervision that supports them, and this is a challenge that we'll continue to work on in making sure that the mentor teachers that we place our students with are implementing best practices, and that's a real challenge we face in working with many districts across our area. So thank you for your time. I'm a little over, so I apologize, and I'll hand it off.